Are you on edge? We live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of the Edge of Everyday podcast, which drops bi-monthly on all your favorite podcast platforms. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and tough talk about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. Real talk with real people that sparks provocative invitations to leap out of what's safe. Sandra Bargman, on the edge of every day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman, and welcome to the Edge of Everyday, streaming on your favorite podcast platforms and at maximizeyou.life. Are you a change maker? Do you walk between worlds, between cultures, between systems? If you answered yes to any of these questions, the Edge of Everyday is the place for you. In a nutshell, this podcast is about pushing boundaries and exploring rough edges. Through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues, it's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we are resistant to change, those places where paradox and contradicting identities live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both individually and collectively. We live in edgy, challenging times. We cannot keep looking away from the ugly, from the difficult, and silence is no longer an option. Life isn't black or white, it's both, and I want to talk about that. I want to face the tension of paradox, and I want to engage in the hard conversations. I want to explore the rough edges between our light-filled brilliance and our dark, shadowy corners. Because the more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can change the world. So, thanks for tuning in. As some of my loyal listeners know, the Edge of Everyday podcast began at talkradio.nyc, and it's streamed live on Monday evenings. Since moving to our present platform, we remain live, or live in the hive, as I love to say, in that we don't edit our episodes, but we do generally pre-record. So today we are recording on Earth Day, April 22nd, and we are dropping this recording on May Day, May 1st. That combination is some potent energy. Earth Day is an annual event celebrated on April 22nd, aimed at raising awareness and promoting environmental protection. It's a global movement where individuals, communities, and organizations unite to take action and address environmental and climate crisis issues. May Day's cultural significance is deeply intertwined with spring goddesses and pagan rituals. Its roots lie in ancient celebrations of fertility, nature, and of spring at its peak, often linked to deities like Flora, the Roman goddess of flowers, and Maia, the Greek goddess of fertility, and to the Celtic holiday, Beltane. The regime under which we find ourselves here in the US is rolling back every regulation and law that they can to rape our environment, decimate our ecosystems, and dominate our Mother Earth. The patriarchal paradigm on parade for all to witness, a system built on separation from body, from land, from lineage, and from the sacred. However, and I believe this completely, that despite appearances, patriarchal power is flailing. Humans are waking up from their slumber and their consumeristic addiction, and courageous voices are rising. And today's guest is one such voice. Today, we are live in the hive with Trista Hendren, author, speaker, visionary founder of Girl God Books, and one powerful voice and leader in the dismantling of the patriarchal mindset and the remembrance and return to the wisdom and mystery of the divine feminine and to the ancient truth of kinship, reciprocity, and interbeing. So, without further ado, it is my great honor to introduce our guest. Trista Hendren founded Girl God Books in 2011 to support a necessary unraveling of the patriarchal worldview of divinity. Her first book, The Girl God, a children's picture book, was a response to her own daughter's inability to see herself reflected in God. Since then, she has published more than 50 books with hundreds of contributors from across the globe. Originally from Portland, Oregon, she now lives in Bergen, Norway with her family. You can find more about her projects at thegirlgod.com. Welcome, Trista.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandra.
Oh, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It is a great pleasure and an honor. And as you know, I am a huge admirer of yours and the work that you do and put out in the world in the way that you serve. So thank you again for coming on my show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Yay. Well, so I'm just gonna, before we get into my questions, I always like to share how I know my guests. And I know Trista, we have a few people in common now, but I learned of her from the glorious Dr. Lynn Sedgmore. Shout out to you, Lynn. And she's the one when I was getting to know her and interviewing her for the podcast, she said, "Do you know about the Girl God book?" And I was, no, she said, Google it. Google Trista. It's unbelievable. What she's doing is unbelievable. And which I did. And of course, followed you and read up on and ordered a couple of your books. And then I briefly met you at the Goddess Crone Conference. Lynn quickly introduced
Oh,
us.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah. And but you were like everyone was all over you. So, whether you remember that or not, everyone wanted their touch of Trista. And it was right when a lot of people were around you. So, and it was wonderful to listen to
I'm
you.
wearing a necklace that Len made for me that she brought me when she
Yeah.
came to visit Bergen in March. So
Oh, beautiful. It's gorgeous.
shout out for to Lynn also because she's just wonderful, inspiring woman.
Yeah. And I've had her on the show not once but twice. And she, as a thank you for having her on the show, she made a necklace for me as well, which I had on Sunday, on Easter, but I didn't wear it today. However, I am, for those of you who are just listening, I have on my rose, very colorful red and a bunch of different colors, but primarily red roses in honor of the sacred divine feminine. And I have on my Fuck the Patriarchy necklace that was inspired from Kat Shaw, world famous Kat Shaw, who does incredible artwork and is on many of the Girl God books.
Yep, she's all over my house actually.
I
And that's
love
how
it.
I met Lynn. So yeah, it's funny how all of these webs of women work.
Mm. Yeah, I feel very deeply grateful to have been brought into that community. And I can trace it all back, well, to this podcast, certainly, but all back to Lynn. So it's just great. Well, so let's dive in with my first question that I ask all my guests. What identity do you, Trista, lead with?
Oh wow. That's a tough one because I'm neurodiverse, so I have like 80 things going at one time usually.
I
Um,
love it.
but I would have to say the mother archetype, the goddess, the great mother, because I definitely have very strong mother energy, not only with my own children, but like we have kids in and out of our house constantly. Like I always joke that my house is like an episode of Glee every day because my daughter's in like theater school, and we just have all these eccentric kids, a lot of
And every
neurodiverse
moment is
kids.
a cue for a musical.
Yeah. So yeah, but no, I love that. And I love to feed people. I love to cook. I love to eat. So, and I guess really that's at the heart of my work is kind of the mother bear energy. I'm just finishing up a chapter on our Caradwin anthology, and I feel that we owe all the children of the world the same love and protection that we would want for our own children. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Amen. Amen. Well, that of course makes me think of your work with Palestine and your courageous voice in that category, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to start out with, or get my next question and then start off with the story around your daughter and starting Girl God Books. But before we get to that, what worlds do you walk between, Trista Hendren?
Well, I think I've walked between a lot of different worlds because I was raised Christian, I converted Muslim. In between there, I became a feminist. I had no prior knowledge of feminism. I was raised in a very traditional environment. And then I became a businesswoman. And then I kind of went from like being this, mm, I would say my second husband, we lived a very privileged existence. We belonged to a country club. And then I kind of went from there to like a granola hippie woman and goddess lover. So I've kind of crossed all of them that you possibly can.
You're a revolving door between worlds. Oh, that's great. Interesting. I didn't realize that you had converted to Islam. Wow. Wow. How was that? Tell me that story before we get into Girl Got Books. Tell me that story. Being
Well,
raised in Christianity in a very traditional Christian way and moving into becoming a Muslim.
yes. So I had gone to a conservative Southern Baptist college with my intention was to become a pastor. And then as soon as I got there, I realized the only real role for me is to become a pastor's wife. Because in the denomination, I also belong to a very conservative denomination, but in mine, we did actually ordain women. Should have done my research a little bit more. I think I just wanted to go to Florida where the weather was nicer. But once I really got into like the historical, cultural roots of the Bible, I basically lost my faith like right away, like within months. And then I really struggled with that because I was really raised in a tradition of like, you're going to go to hell if you're not Christian. And I really, really believed that. And at the same time, I couldn't reconcile that with what I knew anymore. And so I transferred to another college in Florida that was a state college. And that's when I got my first introduction to feminism. And I saw Bell Hooks speak, and it just like blew my mind.
Yes.
It like ripped everything wide open. And and all sorts of really neat things. But I ended up coming back home to Portland and going to Portland State, which I never thought I would do. And I loved it. I absolutely loved Portland State. Um, and then I started in women's studies and everything, and but I also at the same time fell in love with a Lebanese guy. And at the time, I identified as atheist, and I was very clear up front. I have no interest in ever converting to Islam. He said, "That's fine. Like there's part of Islam is like there's no compulsion in religion. You can't force anyone to do something that they don't want to do."
Mm.
But what ended up happening is because he was Arab and Muslim, everyone assumed that he was beating me and treating me badly. And so much, in fact, that I got an injury at work where I was smacked in the head by a 2x4, knocked out, had to go. I had stitches, I had a black eye, and everyone just assumed it was him. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, he is not that. He's to this day, he's like one of my closest friends. Um, so, and then I went to Lebanon. That completely changed my life, and like my
Mm.
whole outlook on everything shifted so much when I went there. Um, and then when we came back, uh, after everything, I said, um, number one, I wanted to study because I wanted to understand this religion that everyone demonized so much and why it was such a disconnect from my own lived reality with all these people that I had, been living with. And then number two, I really love the idea of Ramadan. And so I wanted to experience that and do the fast and everything. So I ended up doing converting. I did all the Quran classes. I memorized about, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 hadith, or not hadiths, what do I want to say, verses from the Quran. And I took all the, like, it was kind of like a Sunday school, but it was like on Saturday. So it was like 3 hours learning Arabic, learning different, things from the Quran.
Oh,
And And yeah, no, I never like renounced my faith. I don't really practice anymore, but it was a huge influence for me.
mm.
And in terms of like the social justice aspect of my work, I think that's been one of the primary factors because I think sometimes we're lacking that, if we're being honest, in the goddess
Oh,
world. I think we are lacking there from my
mm.
perspective. Not everywhere,
Interesting.
but a lot of times it's a little too new agey some places, and it's like
Yeah,
love and light. Let's
right.
just focus on, and
That's spiritual bypass.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not really my deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think of someone like a Starhawk, but I think she would call herself a Wiccan. Well, no, she would call herself both, goddess and Wiccan. But yeah, I would agree that there it can be lacking, and the sense of um, focus on self-care, really not as a service to all, but as a, sort of
Yeah.
self-centered
Yeah, and
rather than
Starhawk
putting it
is
out for the
definitely,
world.
I think, a social justice
Oh my
warrior
God, yeah,
for
exactly. That's
sure.
why I
Yeah.
thought of
So I
her.
mean
Yeah,
that yeah, I wanted to just clarify that to say that. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I mean she's amazing.
And she, by the way,
But
listeners,
I mean, yeah, I'm not speaking to,
she, by the way, was at the Crone conference, same Crone conference in which I
that's
met
right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
And I didn't speak to her there, but I did get to meet her. She came to Norway for an Echo conference
Mm,
out in the boonies some years ago. But
I love it.
yeah, she's very inspiring. I have a lot of her books here.
Yeah, totally. Well, you said something, Lebanon. It changed. What changed you? What was the big discovery that made you going to Lebanon? You said going there was it just changed you. What was the biggest thing that changed you in Lebanon?
Well, I think that was the first time I think I really like I'd read about the goddess, but that's the first time I really felt the goddess.
Ooh,
And
interesting.
um, yeah, that her presence is very strong. And I would say that's probably one of the reasons why we have so much turmoil in the Middle East because it's the root of patriarchy. It's the root of the patriarchal religions, but it's also the root of the goddess, where they've suppressed her for so long. And you can really see that in a way that, when you're in America, um, at least the way that I grew up, I didn't see a lot of things firsthand like I did in Lebanon, where I would have, a fighter jet over my head, or, a boy was killed while I was there, and I went to a funeral and having like the women weeping and mourning. And um, yeah, I
Mm,
mean, it was just unlike anything I'd ever experienced in my life before. And especially being told, as a born again Christian, that Israel was the chosen people of God live there, and like believing, I think there's a lot of demonization of Arabs in all media, and
I
I
would
grew up
agree.
with that myself. Like,
Mm,
um, so yeah, it just really, it's like a switch went off in my brain, and I didn't ever see the world in the same way after I visited there, as there was like a very distinct before and after.
mm. And so it was there that you really discovered the goddess. And
I'd say the first time I felt her.
mm, mm,
I think before that, she was sort of an abstract, in a book.
right. But you had already
Um,
gone down that path, the goddess path, discovering it from a faith standpoint, from a an expansive experience. Is that true? Is that a true statement?
I'd say I was experimenting with goddess. I was still a little bit like, am I going to go to hell? Because,
That's
I've
powerful
always been a
stuff, I
very,
know.
been a very avid reader. So, really, it was kind of a fluke that I just enrolled. They used to have those book clubs that you could get all these free books, and I also love to get a deal. And so, and I kind of then went down this rabbit hole of like, oh wow, this looks, and I still have some of the books actually. I actually have, I'm looking at the first one was a Burleigh Mutant anthology. I think it's something The Great Goddess, but and it was the artwork. I think we talked about that before. I think that
Mm,
really hit me because we don't see anything depicting the divine feminine really in a Protestant church.
right.
You have some of that in the Catholic Church with Mary, but the way that I grew up with, I didn't, I didn't get it at all.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, this is a great segue to Girl God Books. And yeah, we had a pre-chat, as I do with all my guests, listeners, and we talked about the incredible artwork. And we mentioned Kat Shaw, who's on many of the Girl God books. The incredible expansive artwork that Trista chooses for the cover of each of these books. It's one of the things that I noticed first off was just how pleasurable that was and how inspiring that was. So tell us. I know that Girl God Books sprang out of your what you created for your daughter. Tell that story of how you came to write the Girl God and how it mushroomed and evolved into Girl God Books.
yeah, I had two young children. I was trying to raise them in an interfaith environment because
Mm.
my background was like literally I had a brochure of like every world religion and why it was wrong. And so, yeah, I literally remember this pamphlet. It had like all of them, even Catholicism was on there. And
Wow.
so I thought, and I was still very involved in my Muslim community. And then my grandparents had gone to a United Church of Christ congregation for over 30 years. And as they got older, they weren't able to drive anymore. And so I would drive them to church because their community was really important to them. And I
Mm.
thought it would be good for the kids. And it's a liberal church, open to everybody. And so I did both. And both were really good communities, I will say, for my kids because I ended up being a single mom and I felt really supported for the most part. And I felt like my kids had a lot of other people because their dad had addiction issues, that it was important to have a community around them of others, seeing other men who, were healthy and thriving. And, but in any case, my daughter didn't, she was like, we had experiences in both the church and the mosque. I remember I took her to the mosque. Um, it was during the Egyptian uprisings, and I wanted them to go, and we wanted to show solidarity. And I wasn't quite sure because I hadn't gone for a long time to that particular mosque. And when we got there, they had like a women must cover their hair sign, and I was thinking, oh boy, this wasn't here before. But um, my daughter had a hoodie on, and so I put the hoodie up over her head and I said, just put it on. And she said, oh, if Joey doesn't have to wear it, I don't have to wear it. And there was this big man at the door, and he just looked at her. He's like, okay, just let her. Um, but yeah, that hasn't, for the most part, anything that I've been included. I've never worn the hijab. Um, I'm not. I think that women should be able to wear whatever they want or not wear
Of
whatever they
course.
want.
Of course.
And I don't actually personally find that it's part of the religion. I think it's something that is culturally, in some cases, imposed, in some cases, a choice. But the other thing that in church came up is that my daughter just didn't relate to the idea of God because she's like, it's a boy, and what like where am I in that? So I just wrote kind of like down a conversation that we had had, and then I kind of based the book on that, and then
Mm.
yeah, just went from there.
Wow. quite literally, we have two barred owls on our property here in the Catskill Mountains, and one of them, while you were talking just now, flew by the window. Quite literally, while you were talking. I had to
I
share
love
that.
owls.
I know it's a couple barred. We have a little pond here on the property, and it's
Oh,
absolutely jam-packed with frogs, and they're hunting right
I
now
love
because
frogs
they're
too.
nesting. Yeah, they're nesting. I know, me too. But
Oh,
oh,
I need
come
to
on,
come visit you.
yeah, you do, and we have turtles. You do.
Oh, I love
You
turtles too. I love
you
a lot of animals
must,
actually,
and you can
but
see
I
my
have some
wonderful
favorites, and you're
space.
naming a lot of them.
Excellent. And we have bear.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You
so they
mentioned
walk through our
bear. I think
property.
bears are
Yeah. Uh,
we just have our animals, and then we have the hedgehogs, which I love hedgehogs also.
Yes, I love this on
And
your
then
website.
and we have lots of birds like
We
that
have
I feed,
hedgehogs
but
here.
no owls. Owls to me are like the most magical.
Yeah, totally. It's they're unbelievable, and to have a pair here and see them every single day is really breathtaking. But to have them go
Do you
by the
talk to
door,
them?
but oh, of course I do. My
Yeah,
God,
I always talk to my birds.
and they've come onto our patio, our back patio. They've quite literally flown onto the in other seasons because this is not the first pair that's been around our property. Anyway, yes, I would love to have you come and visit, Trista. Consider it an open invitation.
Oh, thank you.
So let's get back to so you and I listened to the recording. There's a lovely recording of it online as well.
Oh, my sister did that.
It's beautiful. It's sweet.
Yeah.
It's and I loved it. And she asked this great question. What do you suppose the girl god looks like? Her mom asked curiously. I loved that. What do you suppose the girl? So what was the, you've got this book now. You're an author, you're a published author. What did you publish it yourself? Was that the idea to make Girl God books, to publish other people? What was this? What's
No.
that story? Why
Well,
would you
it's
jump into
funny.
that big pool?
Yeah. I wasn't planning on it. A couple things happened. Well, first of all, I wanted to say one of the most meaningful things that it has happened from that sentence is I've had so many young girls send me in pictures that they drew of what they thought that the girl god looked like. And I
Oh,
actually have one that her mother was so thrilled with that she made it into a magnet. So it's on my fridge. So I see it every day. So,
oh.
um, yeah. Anyway, but no, I
Hmm.
was not planning to do anything. I wasn't. What happened after the market just kind of took a dive in 2008? I had been a mortgage broker, and I had taken care of two of my grandmothers back to back, and they died within 6 months of each other. And then I was going through a divorce. I had two young kids, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I really spent a lot of time just reading, contemplating, and of course, raising my children because they were still really young. And that was, yeah, they were a handful. Um, and when I just wrote out that book, I had written one book prior that I never really did anything with, actually about Lebanon.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
uh, But in any case, I just put that out. I felt like I needed to get it out into the world. And then the second book idea came, which actually was on Mother Earth.
Yes, I
And
read about that.
then my son said to me, "Well, Mom, can you write a book for me now too?" So I wrote a
Oh,
feminist book for boys. He was 8 at the time. And then, yeah, then more people kept coming with ideas, and I kept getting more ideas, and they just kind of like,
spiraled.
so yeah, and I published all of them. Um, so yeah, no, I'm not sure that I could have found a publisher for most of these books.
Well, and just, I mean, there's just such a great range of topics that, fall under this umbrella of feminism. But I don't know that, I mean, today, do you think it would be difficult to get some of those published by other people?
Not without making a lot of editorial compromises, because I've
Oh,
seen that with other people.
oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, well, again, this elicits a huge thank you for the work that you do in the world. If I ever write a book and I have an idea after I write my play that I've
in
been
terms of
talking
what you would
about,
say.
oh, oh, you froze a bit. I was talking
Oh,
over
you
you.
did too?
Oh, your internet is unstable, it says. Mine is impossible. I'm right next to the thing. Oh well, we seem to be back. I didn't hear what you last said, and I was talking. I think I was talking over you.
Oh,
The last.
just that I think you're a bit more limited if you go with the traditional like big publisher, um, in terms of what they will and won't include in things. And for me, I didn't really want my words censored, and I didn't want other women to be censored.
Yeah,
Um,
particularly not on this.
so
I mean, that is the subject, being censored, women being put down.
yeah, I mean, the thing is that men have had like the microphone for so long, and people get on my case sometimes because I say I very, very, very rarely read men anymore because I feel like my entire education was almost,
I saw.
99% men. And that's I think that's why when I saw Bell Hooks speak, I was like, wow, because other than that, like in high school, I think one of the only other women I read was Toni Morrison, which of course was amazing. And I have all her books here. I love her. Um, and a few other maybe here and there, but it was almost all men. And, medicine is all based on men. Everything is based on men.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like
No,
I have to kind of take back some of it for myself.
I saw that you had posted that on a comment on Facebook, and I loved it when I saw that you had written that. No, I rarely read, and I was like, yes, and it's true.
I mean, there
They've
are
had the
some
micro,
good, yeah.
but understand the defiance and the desire to see patriarchy dissolve and crumble is in service to both men and women. This idea that it's man-hating is just nonsense. And if any man thinks this through and can get out of his patriarchal way mindset, he will see the freedom that it offers for him as well.
It's so entrenched. So, like for instance, whenever these things go around and they seem to about once a year about like your 10 top favorite books, almost always they're almost all male authors, even by women that I would consider feminists. And I'm like, check out your reading list. Like, look at how many men are on that list. Look at how many men are quoted as in terms of like anywhere, like on Facebook. That's why I almost always quote women as well, is like that's what you see. That's the most quoted uh, people, and you can see they actually have lists of this. It's usually like 99 or 97 men and 3 women,
Hmm.
and that's still in 2025. Like I don't think it's getting much better. It's still
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, we've got a ways to go, don't we? So
and
what?
also in terms of do men quote women? Not very often,
Yeah,
but
right.
we're not good at it either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't paid attention to that. I will from now on.
Go
Absolutely.
look at your bookshelves too.
Yeah.
Everyone should
Wow.
do this and look at what's on your shelves and what you've read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so funny. I mean, this podcast is primarily women. That's just too, and I say it's not that I just want women only. I had a girlfriend whose book I'm in, On the Shoulders of Mighty Women, and she had a podcast called Women We Should Know, and she was very committed to only women. And I've had men on this, but I primarily uplift the voices of women for that reason. Naturally, I had never even really made that commitment consciously, but I'm just doing it naturally. Yeah, interesting. Well, so what have you learned in terms of about yourself and about perhaps your spirituality through in the world around you through the evolution of Girl God books?
Well, I think what is pressing upon me right now the most is that we don't have much time left to turn this around, and we
Hmm.
need to do whatever it takes to bring more women on board. Like for me, I think I've always been sort of a bridge builder because I've had the Christian and the Muslim experiences, so I can relate to both communities. And I think sometimes in the goddess communities, it can be a little bit too exclusive, and a lot of people are still like not really even comfortable with the word goddess. Because I wasn't for a long time. Like it was like, oh, that's bad. So I think that we need to come together in whatever ways we can, um, and put aside differences. Um, yeah, because I'm actually, I don't want to say terrified, but in a way, like when I look and I'm lucky because I can look from a distance, at least for now. But it's like when I see what's happening in the States, it is it's not good.
It's not good. And the regulations that are being rolled back and uh, yeah,
Well, and
I
that's why
would
women really have to come back into their inner knowing too, like in terms of like the abortion bans and all this. We did a
yeah,
whole anthology around that because abortion is ancient. Like we
yeah,
don't need men to
to make any those
facilitate
decisions.
anything for us. And actually, way back when there was that group called Jane, I think it was just called Jane, the group of women that were like housewives, and they were doing abortions more safely than a lot of the doctors were, and they had a whole or like underground organization. And
Mm.
I mean, I do think that people are going to have to get a lot more creative, and we need to like teach our daughters better, like about their bodies and how everything works and their cycles, and because like the sex ed curriculum is not at
Yeah.
all adequate.
Yeah, it's really disheartening. And I think about this play that I'm writing what breaks my heart the most, in addition to the young girls and the young men too, are the women who bought into this, who have been so programmed by misogyny and they've internalized it so deeply. And the play is for them in my mind, they're number one in for whom I would want this to reach. This kind of knowing and this kind of awakening and remembrance of self. Yeah. So with the sense of having very little time left, where are you focusing your energies most these days?
Well, right now I am focused on primarily the Middle East, or I
Yeah.
don't know, I don't really like that term, but for lack of a better word, for what people can easily access. I think that the creation of patriarchy, for the most part, took place there, um, by our patriarchs, and that if we can come back to those earlier goddesses, then we can bring peace to that area. Um, I don't think the world should be like this. I mean, part
Mm.
of it is, of course, capitalism and people making money
Yeah.
on war and genocide. Um,
Yeah. Making money on the occupation, on the genocide. It's unbelievable. And you in Norway, you posted you sent out a wonderful, a woman who I don't know if
the
she's the leader
grandmothers
of
against genocide.
yeah, that I don't know if she's the
Yeah.
leader of it, but certainly a member of it, and how they tell us about the grandmothers of genocide against genocide.
So I only just found out about them yesterday, and my friend Elizabeth Sletness, who have her painting behind me, and she partnered with me on the first three books. She had posted it yesterday, and but it was only in Norwegian, and so I didn't share it yesterday because most people don't speak Norwegian. So I was really happy that they
In
put it
English
out in
version.
English, which I think is really, really smart. And it's just a group of grandmothers in Norway putting demands. They have four demands on the Norwegian government and press. And really, they want it to be a worldwide effort. And I think I really like what they did because it's just very simple. Maybe you can put a
Mhm.
link to the video
I
in our
totally will.
listeners.
It'll be in the show
But
notes.
basically, to pressure the prime minister, the minister of finance, because what they're doing right now, in terms of allowing this Norwegian money, the funds, to go into weapons that are being used
Mhm.
in this genocide,
Yeah.
they could be. I mean, they are filing a petition with the police to have them held accountable, and also for the press. I'm going to try to paraphrase this, but for the press to be held accountable to not just be a propaganda machine for Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. Like here in the States. Yeah, and you in our pre-chat, I want to say this out loud. My complete and utter sadness and despair over the relationships that I don't pretend to know the history of the Middle East. I don't pretend to know the long relationships in that area and the destructive relationships, and I have certainly not teased that apart fully. But the comment that I always get back to, and what breaks my heart in my own relationships, is that I have had my Jewish friends demand that I stand with Israel. That somehow, if I am against the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, and that I am therefore anti-Semitic. And that's heartbreaking for me that no, I don't want to stand with Israel. I do not want to stand with Netanyahu. And I do not stand for this war. I want a ceasefire. I don't want genocide. And I believe, again, that we can hold both as truth. That I'm not, I understand the epigenetics and the fear of the Holocaust and the atrocities. I understand that, but that doesn't. I cannot stand with Israel as on this matter. Just simply cannot.
Well, I think many Jewish people have that same thought and feeling,
Oh, absolutely. And I do have
and this
Jewish
is
friends who
not good
do.
for people in Israel either. What's
Of
happening is
course.
it's going to harm them, will harm their children. It's harming the environment.
Yeah.
Very little is said about what's happening, and since it is Earth Day, you know,
Yeah.
this environmental destruction is I don't know how we're going to overcome it, to be
I
honest.
know.
Like,
We can't even
and
fathom the
it's right
consequences.
there. They're living in that same area. So every time they send a bomb over, they're poisoning their own children.
Yeah.
So um, it's also for care of the people in Israel, for the Jewish people, for
Indeed.
everybody, that this is just not a
The
good way
answer.
forward.
Yeah, and I think again, and you spoke about the immediacy when you're in the area. I don't think that many people in the United States who they can't quite, because they're not there, they can't plug into that knowing that
Mhm.
it will benefit both people.
Yeah.
They just, it's a return to the Holocaust and a return to anti-Semitism, and which I get. I mean, I can relate to that, but the story is far more vast. Anyway, so what's on your leading edge in terms of how you're very vocal in on your social media and in your fantastic newsletters. So everyone listening in, you should go and join the community, Girl God Books, on social media and sign up to receive this fantastic newsletter. Um, what's on your leading edge of how that you can perceive using this time, this very limited time moving forward?
To me, I try to like focus on who I think is doing things that are like accessible to most people. So I think right now where I'm going to go with it is the grandmothers against genocide after seeing that. Um, I also follow the Mothers Against Genocide in Ireland. I
Mm,
think we need to come together and form communities of women all over the world, though. And local communities are also really important. I know a lot of people right now are talking about kind of accelerating on the protests, taking it a different way. Um, just trying to figure out what is going to work because we
work.
have been marching for 18 months. We've been
Right.
protesting, we've been boycotting, been posting, we're doing all, lots of different things. But nothing has stopped anything yet. And so that's a good question. I think we
Yeah,
have to really think, like it
totally.
took a long time before the Vietnam War was stopped. And that's terrible to think about how many people died needlessly. I think that leaders need to be held accountable. I don't think that there should be, I think people should be shamed for making money off of a genocide. I don't see how this can be a thing. I don't see how you can be an elected politician and profit. How can you trust somebody who would take money off the murder of children? Like, is that who we want leading us?
Apparently so here
No.
in the United States.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the world,
Yeah,
and I mean,
just
it's
unbelievable.
not just the Western world. The Arab world also has failed the
Yeah.
Palestinians. So
Yeah. Well, it's a question I contemplate all the time, and I've marched. I'm joining all the marches, but and did it in the first regime, and, uh, I yeah. I mean, what's it going to take? How are we going to help people to wake up? How are we going to, I ask it all the time, and I listen. I've done climate change shows, appealing to emotions. How do you get people to connect with hope and therefore activism and taking action? I mean, if you don't have hope, you're not going to take action. So what is that pathway? And and
I
your
think,
books are great in that category. Absolutely. I mean, is it a book on the grandmothers against
well,
genocide?
I wish that people would read more. They don't, unfortunately. But I think that we need like a collective vision because so many people, they're just kind of just on the rat wheel all the time. They don't have time to think. They're so stressed, and so many people are so that I talk to, like in the States especially, I really
Mm,
notice a difference in the energy talking to someone who's living in the United States as opposed to someone who's living outside of the United States. Um,
fascinating.
Even I could talk to my sister-in-laws in Lebanon, and they're more calm than people who are living in the United States. And they're not
Wow.
I mean, Lebanon also last year has been through a lot. Um, so yeah, I think that people need to also revolt by taking time for themselves, like making it a priority every day because you need to be strong in your body and clear in your mind. If you're not, and you're just all the time, we're never going to get anywhere because that's what they want us to be. They
And
want
that's
us to live in
patriarchy
chaos. And
and
there's
and
a quote about
productivity.
that, like chaos has been created, and it is. The patriarchy is enforced chaos that they just kind of like made us live in this crazy house. But we're the only ones who can control that narrative. Like for me, I really felt even for 30 years after I went to Lebanon, I was certain I had to leave the United States. And I've lived here now for 10 years. That was the best decision I ever made. I'm so grateful that my kids can live here. Um, for some people, it might just be having like a spare room in your house where you can just unwind and, but you've got to have that space because otherwise we're all
Yeah,
just going to be in this imposed hellhole.
yeah. The addiction to productivity. is so patriarchal, and we certainly in the United States are huge proponents of addiction to productivity, patriarchal productivity. No, those are great words and ones that, yeah, the level of self-care that's necessary. So, I can only, I'm going to really think about speaking with an American versus speaking with someone outside of the United States. I'm going to really think on that one today. Um, so, so you're loving live. You moved to Norway. Tell us, and you have this beautiful, incredible statue, folks. You can see it on her website, thegirlgod.com. You can see the goddess house. She has the Venus of Willendorf on her property that her husband and she completely built. Or did he build it?
He
Tell
built
us that
he
story.
built her. Um, so I'm just going to rephrase one thing. Like Mash Tissue has a very good article. I can send you a link to that too, so people can read
Mhm.
it. It's in our Willendorf anthology, actually. But the Venus figure is kind of like downgrading her from a goddess. Like that's like men decided that they
Oh,
were
interesting.
Venus fertility. Well, that's what most people call her. Even in the museum, if you go, it says Venus. But that was a way of downgrading her. So I call her
Fascinating.
goddess of
Yes.
Willendorf. And my best friend lives in Vienna, and we went and saw the original with my daughter when let's see,
Uh,
7 or 8 years ago. I don't remember. She was pretty little then. And we did several books on her, and I don't remember exactly. We just started talking about it one night, like we just need this huge goddess in our garden. And so my husband, he's very good. He can build anything. And also he's a total environmentalist. So he loves to upcycle everything. He hardly ever throws anything away. So we have a over 6 foot, 2 ton statue in the yard. It is 8,000 times bigger than the original. He took it out on a computer program with the exact dimensions, and then she ended up being a little bit bigger. So so we filled her head with like early copies of Girl God books.
oh, I love it.
Um, and then I have to remember, she has a lot of just extra stuff because we bought this house from people who were elderly who'd lived here for a long time. And we ended up with a lot of random stuff from them. So, for instance, I don't know why they had this. They had this giant king crab that was, I don't know, probably also 40 years old. So we put that in her belly. Figured she can eat it. And we also put spaghetti in her belly. We gave her some red wine. We put milk in her breast. We put yoni blood on her yoni. Anders thought she needed some tools. So the books are lined with some old tools. Um, and some of my mother had sent my grandmother's china, and some of it broke. So I didn't want to part with it, but I thought, okay, we can leave her with the goddess.
Oh,
And yeah, that's the gist of it. So
oh, marvelous.
so we kind of have like a little ceremonial space out there. Can gather maybe about 20 people comfortably. Um, and yeah,
That's
she's
beautiful. She's spectacular. I watched that video too. Um, and it's such a reminder to your point about taking the time and the time for ceremony, the time for ritual, the time for these enormous transformative, and particularly what we are in this incredible liminal space as we're watching patriarchy just fight for its life and decline and ravage as much as it can while it dies. And while at the same time trying to hold this vision of what it is we want to emerge, that to reemerge, to remember. And
I want to share one story about. I was thinking as you were talking. Sorry to interrupt.
no, no,
Um,
no.
but I think in terms of restoring the goddess, watching my husband recreate the statue was so healing and so
Mm.
beautiful of the divine masculine bringing back the goddess and
Yes.
shaping. Because, like, for instance, her breasts are 30 kilos each, and the concrete was running. He had to like he's having to like kind of there's videos on Facebook of that too. But he spent days on the on and also on her yoni. He spent like a full day on her yoni, just crafting it just perfectly, just so. And it's like, men used to worship the yoni, and the menstrual blood was sacred. And
Mm.
we've completely turned that upside down and made it into this,
Shameful.
dirty
Mm.
thing. And it is beautiful, and that men that honor that are also ushering back this feminine
Yeah,
divine.
indeed. Indeed. And I am oh so lucky to call my partner the same, someone that is ushering back the divine feminine as well. Not surprising. I can't imagine being with someone who would want to tear it down, but that would get me into my ferocious compassion discussion, which will be another episode. Um, but I'm looking at time here and wanting to come to a conclusion. We can find you at thegirlgod.com.
Mhm.
And on that website, you can order all of the books there. There are workbooks, anthologies, and singles. Um, you can order PDFs, yes? Am I remembering that correctly?
There is a section where you can order PDFs. Not all the books are on PDF, but there's quite a few of the anthologies that are available on PDF. Um, and I add more periodically. I kind of tend to have like 80 million things to do.
I love that you led with I'm neurodivergent.
Usually,
I
if
like
people ask me, because people will say, "Can I get this on PDF?" And I was like, "Okay, just give me a little bit, and I'll put it up there." So,
yes.
but I'll sometimes I forget because I don't usually put them up right as the book comes out.
Mm,
But sometimes then I'll later like forget, and then someone will be like, "Hey, I want to go." And also because there's some people like in some parts of the world that it's not easy for them to get the books, or it's like cost prohibitive.
right, right.
So
Yeah, in those cases, there are some, I'm trying to completely, and I've grown leaps and bounds of weaning myself from Amazon. I'm not completely off Amazon, and there are times when, honestly, I understand people wanting to. They they live in a place where it's quite literally life-saving. Unfortunately, I understand those people, but I'm not in a region where it's difficult, so I can use it as a
I
search
don't have
engine.
it in Norway.
Right. Oh, yay! Well, I should mention to our listeners. I mean, this woman is off the grid. They don't have a car. That I find so inspiring, completely inspiring. You're completely dedicated to public transportation and bike riding.
I'm not, my husband's a bike rider. I really don't like riding a bike. I'm very clumsy.
I
So I get most places on foot. Um, but yeah, he loves his bikes, and he has velomobiles too. So
love
those
it.
are kind of cool. If you don't know what they are, they kind of look like a car, but they're a bike.
Oh, interesting. No, I don't. I'll have to look it up. I'll put a link up to that in the show notes.
Yeah. He calls it,
Well,
he only believes in human powered transit. So
oh, I love it.
a lot of times, even when we were doing the statue and stuff, we would have to go about a mile and a half to the construction market, and he would carry everything by hand on foot on a wagon. So he carried
Wow.
2,000 tons, or
Oh,
no, what was it? 2 tons, 2 tons of cement.
oh, the metaphor. Oh, the symbology. Incredible. Well, I thank you. I thank you so much, Trista, for coming on the edge of every day and sharing your warmth and your wisdom and your insight and your passion and your great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's always so great to sit with you. So,
And in closing, I know that in Mother Earth, you shared the poetry of quite a few feminists, and Starhawk, who we talked about earlier, was one of them.
mhm.
I have a quote here that I'm going to send us out with. The goddess is not separate from the world. She is the world and all things in it. Moon, sun, earth, star, stone, seed, flowing river, wind, wave, leaf and branch, bud and blossom, fang and claw, woman and man. Amen. And so it is. Well, thank you again, Trista. And to my wonderful listeners, thank you for spending this time with us. Remember, you are always at the edge of the miraculous. Until we speak again, take good care.
Pressing down on you, no man has fought.